Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Best of the AFC West Podcast. It is November 8th. It is Election Day, so when everybody is hearing this, America will have a new president, and likely you are very disappointed with the result. So we're going to forget about all that and talk about some football because that's way more fun. So with me, as almost always, I've got Broncos fan Chris Crouse.
Go Broncos.
It's so sad.
Raiders fan Tyler Stevens.
Raiders!
And Chargers fan Sumanth Gollapudi.
Go Charge, go!
Well, we all voted, and hopefully you did too. But we're not going to talk about politics because I'm sure everybody is sick of it by now. It's finally over. So let's get into the football news here. I'll start it off with the Chiefs. Jeremy Maclin left the game on Sunday with a groin injury. He's day-to-day right now, unsure about his availability for this upcoming week. Alex Smith will get the start against the Panthers this weekend, and Spencer Ware is likely to play. He still has to clear concussion protocol. Also, Justin Houston has been activated off the PUP list, and it's possible, probably unlikely, but it's possible that he does get some limited snaps this weekend. So I will be watching his progress coming back from injury very closely because
I think they're going to Jamal Charles him, kind of like bring him in like one or two plays every other play.
I think so too.
Like
I think it's going to be, third and super long, obvious passing situation once or twice a game. For
they don't want to stick him
weeks.
out there against a run and have him get like run over by a pulling guard or anything.
Right.
In addition to that, D Ford is looking really good right now. I mean, I'll have stats on that later, but
I was going to
D
talk
Ford
about
is
D Ford
really good.
later. Yep.
Yeah.
He's looked very good. So, with Tamba Hali falling off a cliff, D Ford steps right up into his place. So once we have Ford and Houston going, it's going to be scary. So I'm excited for that. Chargers. What's your weekly Chargers injury report like this week?
Yep, the weekly injury report. So, as I'm sure most of you have heard, the day before we played Tennessee, so this, I think Saturday morning, this is what happened. Our running back, Dexter McCluster, former Chief, former Titan, broke his forearm. Moving luggage.
He's lying.
Actually, the story is even funnier, so if I'm going to condense the story, and I don't know why he's doing this, but his family moved up to San Diego. His wife, I think, had a suitcase that was full of stuff, and he was looking for his phone, and he saw the suitcase. He thought it was right behind the suitcase, so he moved the suitcase, kind of just pulled it, yanked it, assuming there was nothing in it. There was stuff in it, and his forearm just popped.
Okay, I don't believe this at all.
That's terrible.
Have you guys seen the HBO show Ballers at all?
No,
Ever seen?
because why?
It's a good show, that's why. But there's a guy on there named Vernon, and he's playing paintball, and he gets shot when he's standing on the log, and he tears his freaking Achilles. But he lies to the league and says he was weightlifting at home. And honestly, this story sounds less believable than that one. I think he was doing something stupid and ended up breaking his forearm and decided to make it something that wouldn't get him cut.
Yeah, I'm going to take the opposite route and actually believe this because this is a forearm that he had surgery on in the past. So, unless there's great reason that says that he did something really, really stupid to his forearm, I'm going to go assume that... No,
I'm just trying to find the reason. You pull a piece of luggage off your bed and it snaps your forearm? That doesn't sound...
he yanked it. It's not like he just dropped it.
I can see if he dislocated his elbow, but he broke his forearm. That doesn't even seem physically possible.
Where does this rank in all-time injuries between Darren McFadden reaching for his phone,
another player lying,
or Nate Burleson's pizza? Where does this fit?
The pizza one is better. The pizza one is obviously...
I think that ranks. Yeah, that's
top.
Makes the pizza.
All right. Well, we can debate whether or not Dexter's...
that was my fantasy team name that year. Nate Burleson's pizza. Got some laughs.
That's the scariest fantasy team name ever. But besides that, his forearm is broken no matter what it is, and he was placed on the non-football injury list, which is basically the IR version of non-football injuries. So he's out for the season. Orlando Franklin are off to injured. Free agent guard signing a couple years ago from Denver, who used to never get hurt in Denver. is now a massive injury liability here and has continued to do so again. He exited the game against Tennessee. He is in concussion protocol, although according to team sources, he is doing fine. He's doing great. I don't know what that means, but he's in concussion protocol. DJ Fluker, and here's the other funny injury story that we've got. Better than Dexter McCluster's in my opinion. So
his is actually believable.
His is hilarious. Almost. He got bit in the eye by a bug.
He got bit in the eye by a bug.
Yes. And I don't know when this happened during the game, but I did notice he was wearing a visor the whole game. He played the whole game with an infected and swollen right eye. Like, there are pictures of it. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know.
How does he know it was a bug and not like just something flew in his eye or somebody poked him in the eye? Or
I don't know. The first report I got was it was an infected eye or just something like, all right, well, shit happens. I have an infected eye before. Like
he got bit. Maybe it was just like inadvertent.
Yeah.
Like the bug was kind
it could have been just dirt. You get anything in your eye, you have the risk of infection.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just going off of I'm just the messenger.
Okay,
here,
that
guys,
sounds less likely than the luggage breaking the arm thing.
Yeah,
no, it's still more likely than the luggage breaking your forearm.
Great. We're gonna have a segment on which Charger injury is more believable.
Leave it in the comments, everybody.
Yeah, we actually have a comment section at SoundCloud, believe it or not. Leave it in the comments there. So there's that, and that's actually a relatively short injury report, but we get the hilarity of all of it this week, as opposed to more subtle.
Morbidness.
Yeah, I don't know what to say for this anymore. All right, I'll just move it on to the transactions. We had one transaction that happened earlier today. Steve Williams, cornerback for the Chargers, his second stint. Young player out of Cal, I believe it's his fourth season out of Cal. He was waived earlier today, possibly headed to the practice squad. I'm assuming he was waived mostly because Brandon Flowers is back on the roster, and we had a lot of corners coming into the game and not enough running backs. So I'm assuming the most lateral move that's going to happen is a running back's going to get pulled up, possibly Andre Williams, because he's on our practice squad. But as of now, all I know is that Steve Williams was waived. So we'll see where the open roster spot goes from there, and that's all I've got from San Diego.
All right. Chris, you got anything out of Denver?
Well, I wasn't able to see the full injury report. I looked for it, but it wasn't updated from last week. But I do know that Derek Wolfe had an elbow injury that he got in the game. And as far as we know right now, it's a hairline fracture. And he's going to be out at probably a few weeks. It's supposedly similar to the same injury that Benny Fowler and Ty Sambrailo got in, I think, preseason. And they were out about 3 weeks. So, Derek Wolfe will probably be out like a week because he's tough as nails. So, I'm not worried. Okay, we're a little worried after this loss. We're a little worried.
And go ahead. What you got?
All right, just as a quick ad, I've got and this is about the AFC West, obviously. So we just have to talk about. I mean, this is the halfway point of it. In terms of individual numbers, there are so many AFC West players that are in the top 5 in the NFL in a lot of categories. I've got a list right here of a bunch of different categories right now. In terms of passing yards, Phillip Rivers and Derek Carr are 4th and 5th respectively in the league. In rushing yards, Melvin Gordon, whose performance I will touch on a little bit later, is now 3rd in the NFL in rushing yards right now. Receiving yards, Amari Cooper, also 3rd in the NFL. In terms of sacks, Von Miller is 2nd in the NFL. Yep, and Dee Ford is 4th, or tied with 3rd, really, at 9 sacks. Interceptions, we have a tie at first place between 2 AFC West cornerbacks, San Diego's Casey Hayward and Kansas City's Marcus Peters. Both have 5 interceptions on the season. We're dominating every single individual category. There's lots of players that are just doing really well in the AFC West right now. Just, a little thing to add, considering the nature of our podcast.
But they still don't want to put no respect on our name.
True.
Yeah, get this NFC East garbage off of primetime.
Yeah,
and get some
right?
just saw that
in there.
Right.
If you just saw that Eagles-Giants game, you'd understand that.
All right, Tyler, you got anything out of Oakland, news-wise?
Literally nothing. Marquette King was on NFL, or he was literally on NFL Network all day today. So I guess that's something.
What was he wearing?
He was wearing a crown, the King's crown.
Oh, there we go.
This is why I love Marquette King.
He is one fashionable individual. So
fashionable is not the word I would use, but we're just gonna go with that.
Flamboyant, maybe.
Maybe.
Yes.
Maybe. Eccentric.
Yeah, there we go. All right. Well, let's jump right into the reviews of the Week 9 games. First off, Chiefs 19, Jags 14, and I was watching this game was more unpleasant than voting. It was bad. It was really bad. The Jaguars, pretty much they dominated the game. They outgained the Chiefs 449 to 231.
You're joking.
No, I'm not joking.
That's a big difference.
That's a huge difference. They had 25 first downs opposed to Kansas City's 10. And they ran the ball very well. Blake Bortles wasn't great, but he made some throws. And it's just our offense, Nick Foles, he killed any QB controversy that we might have had because he can't be the guy after that performance.
Will you put your faith in Alex Smith after this game?
I
told you Alex Smith is your Lord and Savior, and you renounced him. So Nick Foles gave you the worst win I've ever seen.
Now, I've never wanted Foles to start above Smith. Let that be clear. But yeah, it's there were some people on our subreddit saying, "Oh yeah, Nick Foles should get the start. And he should be the guy now." But luckily, he came out and was terrible. So now we don't have to worry about those people anymore. I will say that for a backup, he's one of the better backups in the league, and he has gotten us 2 wins. So I don't want to make it seem like that was a bad signing. It's definitely worked out, but he's not the guy. Really, the Jacksonville Jaguars, they were like, "Here, Chiefs, please win the game, please. We are trying the hardest that we can to give you the game." And they dominated every single stat except turnovers, where Kansas City was +4 in the turnover margin. And it's very easy to win games when you go +4 in the turnover margin, no matter how bad the rest of your team does. So our defense played very well. Ramik Wilson has been one of the best linebackers in the NFL since getting promoted from the practice squad. PFF this week gave him a 93.1, which is a very high rating. Dee Ford got 2 more sacks. As Sumanth alluded to earlier, he is now 3rd in the NFL with 9 on the season, which that is one of the most unexpected results for me this season is Dee Ford blossoming into a usable player, where before he was not. And the refs this game were completely terrible. Travis Kelce was ejected, so he, in the end zone, went up for a ball. Prince Amukamara sort of wrapped him around the neck. It was a no call. I don't know how the officials missed it. Kelce doesn't know how the officials missed it, so he was giving the ref an earful. He kept bothering the ref about it, so the ref threw the flag, and Kelce said, "You know what? I'm going to flag you." So he grabbed his towel and threw it up in the air like a flag.
Totally justified.
Totally justified.
100%. Yes.
Now that we won the game, I can laugh about it. But it was it was a dumb move by Kelce, but since we won, it was pretty funny. So I'm gonna give him props for that. If you haven't seen the clip of Kelce flagging the referee,
it's honestly great, guys.
I highly recommend you go see it because it was really funny.
Yeah.
But we also benefited from terrible referee shenanigans where Jacksonville, Chris Ivory had a rushing touchdown where he fumbled the ball, and the Chiefs recovered it for a touchback, so it went under review, and you can clearly see the ball across the plane before he fumbles it, but it's a Chiefs ball somehow, so I'm not going to complain that the calls were always against us, but the calls were just always against football. It was an abomination.
It was just poorly called.
Yes.
We could just say.
The refs have been terrible this year, all across the board. It's kind of it makes the game kind of sad. Yeah,
it's been bad. Actually, and I'm going to throw in something on Dee Ford. When I first scouted him coming out of Auburn, there was a lot of things that I thought were positives for Dee Ford. He had a lot of explosiveness off the snap. I thought, if nothing else, that he could get that first step over a lot of other players, and using him as a hybrid in Kansas City's system, I believe he's a hybrid in that system. I thought he could do a really good job almost immediately, and he didn't do that initially, but now we're starting to see the fruits of his labor almost, and that explosiveness that I saw earlier is starting to come back, and it's coming back in full force, and the 9 sacks, halfway through the season are a testament to that. So yeah. I'm not totally surprised with D Ford now. I'm just surprised that it happened much later than him being drafted.
Well, the problem with Ford was that he has an elite first step, which in college, that's really all you need.
Yeah, that puts it away.
The talent of offensive linemen in college, they can't. A guy that fast, they just can't beat him to the edge. Whereas in the NFL, that's a different story. So for the first couple of years, he was an elite first step and literally had nothing else. If the offensive lineman got his hands on him, he was taken out of the play. Well, he finally learned some moves from Tom Bahali and Justin Houston, and it's paying dividends.
Yeah, I'm not excited to play D Ford for the next 10 years. I mean, if I had to go, name a list of favorite Chiefs, I mean, Tom Bahali is one of my favorite Chiefs in terms of how disruptive he's always been at the point of attack. But as he gets older, I mean, obviously he's going to get less effective. But if D Ford can immediately step into his place, it's going to turn into a Shaq Barrett, in Denver situation replacing DeMarcus Ware. It's just terrifying to see these pass rushers getting, almost coming in like one by one in this division.
It's about to get a lot worse a little sooner.
Probably, yeah.
All right, well, that game was really ugly, and I don't want to talk about it anymore. So, Titans 35, Chargers 43, and Melvin Gordon, I think somebody tipped him off about me talking so much smack about him. So he said, you know what, I got to get my act together because this rando is calling me out every week. So you're welcome for that, Sumanth.
First of all, it was me that told him, thanks for giving me the fuel to tell Melvin that. And just on the numbers today, oh my goodness, Melvin Gordon ruined, I think, the entire Titans defense. Let's start with the fact that the Titans came into this game with a top 5 rushing defense. They were 5th in the league. San Diego was right behind them at 6th. Melvin Gordon torched them. They came in with an average, I think Tennessee allowed an average about 80, 85-ish yards per game. Melvin got 196 on the ground. 65 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. And the yards per carry, he's at 6.1. It was actually 6 and an eighth, but I'll round up. 6.1 yards a carry, that's not usual for Melvin Gordon, nor is it usual for any other running back. So he had a fantastic game, and he wasn't perfect. He had stops behind the line of scrimmage too, but he had 4 or 5 different runs where he broke at least 20 or 30 yards, and the last run that he had was a 47-yarder. So
can I comment on this?
Go for it.
I think this is like a weird case where you usually don't see it, but the pass actually set up the run. I mean, I watched this whole game. In the beginning, Melvin really didn't get it going that well. Yeah. But the short passes to the tight ends and the slot receivers kind of put the Titans, forced them to kind of step back a little bit, and that opened up Melvin on those kind of draw runs or up the middle. And once he started to get it going, they could not stop it at all.
I agree. I agree completely. Actually, if you look at some of the earlier runs in the game, and honestly, a lot of the bigger runs look just like this. Tennessee was almost coming at San Diego in a passing situation. They're trying to get after the quarterback. The outside rushers were coming in, and then the inside was more or less trying to hold their ground. But once that happened, the Chargers just moved them out of the way, and the pocket kind of just opened up like a tunnel, and Melvin just ran right through. That's it.
They counterpunched them the entire game. It was brilliant, honestly.
It was amazing. I wasn't expecting it to work that well at all, but and then you could see how Melvin's physical traits translated to the NFL. I mean, the biggest thing we've always talked about, at least what I've had with him, was he is about as physically there in terms of a running back as I've ever seen in the NFL. He is the most physically capable back I've ever seen. He's big, he's tall, he's strong, he's fast. The second he gets going, you can't stop him. It was everything behind the line of scrimmage that was always holding him back. And now, when you come up with these, with Tennessee trying to account for the pass and not for the run, that allows the offensive line to open the holes, and Melvin just runs right through them and bursts through for who knows how many yards. So if we can do that again, continuously the rest of the season, Melvin's going to have some ridiculous rushing totals the rest of the season. But moving on from that, now we're going to on the other side, our defense caused turnovers like heck today. or on Sunday at least, but they caused turnovers like crazy. We had a +3 turnover ratio. Hayward got the interception that, tied him with Marcus Peters at 5 overall. Corey Toomer, a guy who I've been talking about all the time ever since we got him from Oakland, forced a fumble. And Dwight Lowery, our recent free agent signing at safety, returned it all the way for a touchdown. Brandon Flowers, the former Chief, got a pick 6 off an underthrown in route. 17 points came off the turnovers. Hayward's interception went to a field goal. So I couldn't ask for a better game turnover-wise from the defense. That was fantastic. Run defense was extremely stout on our end. I mean, Tennessee was 5th. We were 6th. We held them to, I think, 80 yards total. Yeah, 80 yards total, and DeMarco Murray had only 51 yards on the ground. That's not usual for DeMarco Murray, given what we've seen this season. I think he's the second leading rusher in the NFL. Hold on, let me check that. I have that stat up. Yes, he's the second leading rusher behind Ezekiel Elliott. So that's not normal. That was very well done by the San Diego rush defense. And as Tyler touched on earlier, the passing game set up Melvin's runs very well, and part of the reason why was because they were just mistake-free. They just moved the ball very, very well. With short routes, in routes, didn't have to throw the ball down the field all that often for Tennessee to start trying to come after the pass instead of focus on the run, and they still couldn't stop the pass most times when we were doing it. So
you know who made a huge difference?
Shoot.
Antonio Gates.
Hey, probably, honestly,
he was a monster in that game. In every way.
PFF
pass
had
blocking, run blocking, catching passes. He was crazy.
Yep. 5 catches, 75 yards, and a touchdown, if I'm not mistaken, which now puts him at 4 touchdowns away from breaking Tony Gonzalez's all-time tight end touchdown record. First of all, let's throw that out there.
He's not going to do it.
Are you sure?
He's not going to do it.
He's got 7 games to get 4 touchdowns. Let's think about this here.
Well, yeah, that's possible.
It's up and down. I mean, I'm not saying he's a guaranteed lock, but saying he's not going to do it, I don't know if you can claim that. I think he can do it. We'll see. I want him to end the season with, 111? Is that what he needs? Yeah, I think because Tony Gonzo's got 110 or something like that. Yeah, he needs 4. That's all I know. And, I mean, our offensive line, given the pressure that they've allowed in the past, they did relatively good in terms of the protection. I mean, we allowed 1 sack against a strong Tennessee defensive line. I'm a big fan of Jarrell Casey. I was extremely excited when we got Giff Smith, the defensive line coach from Tennessee, over to San Diego this past offseason, because I attribute quite a bit of their success to Giff Smith. So I'm very happy with the protection that the offensive line gave. Now, on terms of our negatives, and this now comes back to our offensive line, penalties were unacceptable. The penalties were really, really bad this game for the Chargers. We had 14 penalties the entire game, and we came into the game the 3rd least penalized team in the NFL. That's unacceptable. It truly is. I mean, I know maybe if we get more penalties, we'll be like the Raiders and win more games, but that's maybe that's what it is. We just need to be like bigger douchebags on the field.
They found the secret.
Be penalized every single play. But yeah, no, we had 14 penalties, and there were some that Tennessee literally declined, so we should have had more than that. It's unacceptable the way they did that, and the offensive line was the biggest culprit. Joe Barksdale in particular did not have the best of games.
Former Raider.
Former Raider. And DJ Fluker, I love his enthusiasm, and I talked about his injury thing, but you can't throw your body like that in a non-moving pile. Like, I don't know if anyone saw this in the first quarter, but there was a rush play that Melvin took maybe about 10 or 15 yards up to near the 5-yard line, and the play had pretty much stopped, and DJ ran in there and tried to push the pile forward and kind of threw his shoulder into it. And
Leo Taylor Lewan play.
Funny, we just played him. But yeah, that got the flag thrown, and we got moved back 10 or 15 yards, and that kind of put us in a tougher position for the touchdown. So you can't do things like that. I love his enthusiasm in terms of DJ's play, but you can't do stupid mistakes like that. And that goes for the rest of our team. And in terms of our defense, the entire game wasn't perfect on defense. We had the turnovers, but we also had little to no counter for Tennessee's fast-paced offense, particularly in the passing game. Sure, garbage yards, or say whatever you want about it, but Marcus Mariota, on an offense that usually isn't a passing offense, got 313 yards over the air. Can't do that. You can't allow a team who is headlined by Tajai Sharp and Rashard Matthews at wide receiver to gouge you for that many for that much yards. So I'm not too pleased with that, but the turnovers made up for it. The turnovers were great, and we won the game. So I can't argue too much about that. And on to Miami.
Mariota with that diving pylon touchdown was pretty epic.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
That was brilliant.
That was well done by Marcus Mariota.
He looked pretty good.
I mean, no, he's up and down. He's got some great highlights, but he's also got the 3 turnovers that he himself.
Yeah, he fumbled literally right after that, didn't he?
Yeah, pretty much on the next drive. Yep, next drive. Corey Toomer punched the ball out, and Dwight Lowry took it up all the way back. So, 3 touchdowns, 3 turnovers. I mean, you got Mariota giving you everything you can handle. So, I mean, if he gets more consistent, he'll be a great quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
He'll be a great quarterback. And just before I sign off on this, I could see this coming from a mile away. I mean, I don't know how many of you guys watch college football, particularly in the audience as well, but usually I go to school in Northern California, and 2 years ago Mariota was headlining the Oregon Ducks team playing against Arizona in the Pac-12 championship game, and I had the honor of witnessing that live. And the way Marcus tore the Arizona defense a new one was unbelievable. I just thought at that point if he didn't win the Heisman, it was wrong. Like it was rigged. If he didn't win the Heisman, it was just Donald Trump level rigged. If Marcus didn't win the Heisman, and he shows that ability in the NFL, so it's great to see. And as long as he can be consistent and remove the negative plays, remove the rookie mistakes, he can be a great quarterback in the NFL, and he will be one of the usher in a new era of quarterbacks in this league.
Speaking of
Tom Brady's
Trump,
retire.
He's currently in the lead as an election update.
We're not talking politics.
We're not talking about that.
We're ignoring that right now.
I regret my Donald Trump quip earlier, but yes, that's
it's rigged, so obviously
it's totally rigged. But yeah, so
the system is rigged.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so I mean, yep, that's he'll be a great quarterback, Marcus Mariota in the NFL. He just has to clean up the negative plays, and Tennessee will be a much better team with him.
And get a better coach, maybe. I don't know.
No, okay. I'll leave the malarkey comments up, but I don't think he's done a terrible job riding the ship over there. I think he's actually done.
It's a load of monarchy.
I mean, he was dealt a bad hand in Jacksonville. I really don't think he was dealt any positive things over there. I don't know what he could have done. It was almost like what Gus Bradley walked into. Granted, he's not going to leave with much else, but he walked into Jacksonville, Mike Mularkey, with very, very little on his plate, and he was given no chance to work with it. So I don't blame him for that particularly. I don't think he's the best head coach in the NFL. I'm not calling him the next Bill Belichick, but I think he gets more flack than he deserves, and I think he's done a pretty good job riding the ship in Tennessee, at least for now.
All right.
Mike Mularkey to the Chargers, 2017. You heard it here first. All right, moving on. We picked a sweep last week
we did.
The Raiders, as they end up coming through
All right.
30-20. As Chris wasn't here to defend his team, just like the Broncos weren't able to defend the run.
You know what?
Damn.
I didn't show up, just like the Broncos didn't show up, obviously, to the game at all.
That's some predictions like early on.
So, Chris,
Want me to
do you have any defense for your team at all? Is there any redeeming quality from last night?
Well, positives. Brandon McManus, he was kicking some good field goals. He hit a 55-yarder twice after Jack Del Rio tried to ice him. And
it was a good attempt to ice, but he just had ice water in his veins.
You can't
honestly,
ice
and it's at sea level too. Like it's not actually an easy mile-high kick.
Yeah. Straight down the Gooch McManus. That's his name. But other than that, positives. That one play with Capri Bibbs, that screen pass, that looked pretty good. That was.
I think that was the defense going into prevent mode, and then forgetting that they had to actually finish the play.
Yeah, that, and I think we were starting to wake up a little bit. We had some good blocks. Emmanuel Sanders threw a good signal for Capri Bibbs to cut back. Otherwise, I don't think he would have got in the end zone.
Yeah, never a good idea to wake up with 5 minutes left in the game.
Yeah. And shoot, I can't even think of his name right now.
Jordan Norwood's catch?
Why can't I think of our offensive line's names? Probably
because they're terrible.
Yes.
Was it Stevenson getting wrecked?
Oh, he had
all
one
afternoon?
of the worst games I've ever.
Thanks for taking
Yeah.
him off our hands.
him and Okung, it was bad. Yeah.
Okung saw Irvin all day, and he had reminiscences of like Seahawks training camp.
Jesus.
He had flashbacks.
he got traumatized.
No, it was Schofield. Sorry. Yeah, Schofield.
Oh, jeez, that's no better.
On that, no, he's not as bad as we've given him some bad flack. He's made some bad plays in big games, maybe primetime games, I guess mainly. That's why he's known for some bad mistakes.
You guys should trade him to the Texans.
But no, during that game he had some hustle. He was one of the only offensive linemen we had with any hustle during the Raiders game.
He was going against Jihad Ward all day. Like it wasn't really a huge
what
matchup
I'm thinking
for him.
of is the Capri Bibs, which is like the only play I have to talk about because we didn't do anything.
Yeah.
But during that screen pass, he had 2 blocks and then ran like 30 yards downfield to make another block to let Bibbs get into the end zone, and everyone else on the line had given up obviously because we were pretty far behind and they were probably
He played like
disheartened.
He played like he started Bibbs on his fantasy team. Honestly.
Probably did.
But those are like the only positives that I can scrape from the bottom of the barrel.
Well, I'm sure Tyler has a bunch of positives.
Oh, I have a lot, but let's start with one negative. Speaking of fantasy, actually, honestly, anyone who watched the game Sunday saw that Derek Carr had a pretty decent game against the no-fly zone, even though the stats didn't really show up. But I mean, come on, some of us have these people on our fantasy teams, and the Broncos literally stole points from us. Every time Carr went deep, they either interfered or held. I adjusted the stat line just for Carr, like if the attempts would have not been interfered with, Bradley Roby and Chris Harris Jr., and Carr would have had 251 yards through the air and 2 touchdowns. The Broncos literally stole 67 yards and 2 touchdowns from Derek Carr.
We were just looking at your performance last week. We're like, well, how did they win? Oh, they committed a lot of penalties. That must be it. So
they weren't all in the defensive backfield though, and so like screw those guys. But speaking of screw those guys, the fact that TJ Ward is still sticking by his stance on the Raiders receivers, I mean, like this is the saltiest man on earth. I'm surprised his initials aren't NACL. I mean, like,
the
he
chemistry
gets his
reference.
Hey.
he gets his ankles broken by Jalen Richard and misses multiple tackles, then blows up a play for no gain on the 5'8" rookie running back and celebrates like he just stonewalled Adrian Peterson. Honestly, I think the Raiders targeted him whenever they could, and he got exposed so much, and like literally so much of this loss is on him being the box safety and failing to make so many stops so many times in this game. And his broken coverage is what led to the outside corners having to draw the flag on some of those deep passes. Honestly, his mouth wrote a check his ass couldn't cash.
You can't.
I think the Raiders came out there pounding the ball just to get at him. His mouth literally wrote a check his ass couldn't cash. That's it.
That's a phrase I'm going to use.
Well, moving away from the Broncos, the positives I saw on the other side of the ball, the Raiders held the Broncos at 33 yards rushing. They had a 30-13 lead until that garbage time touchdown by Bibbs, which I'll get to later. With 5 minutes left in the game, Mack continued his hot streak with nearly the same stat line as the Bucs game, with 2 sacks and a forced fumble. Our coverage held tight and maintained communication through most of the game, so they were definitely a plus in this game. And they kept the Broncos to 3 and outs on their first 4 drives, which is awesome. They had a 27% third down efficiency, going 3 for 11, and limited them to 2.8 yards per rush.
Which is funny because that's pretty good for us for the season.
Holy crap! Even with Anderson,
are you serious?
Oh yeah, like I can't remember the stat. I've got it. I guess on the season we have like a 35% third down efficiency.
Jeez.
Which is
well, I mean, for a season stat, that's actually not too bad.
It's
but like in a vacuum, well, true, yeah.
Also, usually around 45%.
Well,
usually around 45% for third down. Yeah.
Who is?
Usually, I mean, just in general, like usually, I think third down efficiency is around 45 to 50%. Honestly.
Yeah, that's usually the average.
Yeah. So 35 is well below 50.
But we also have the most 3-and-outs on the season with 31 3-and-outs. And
shit.
Okay, guess who has which 3 teams have the top number of total drives?
It's probably the rest of us.
I'll give you a hint. They're all in our division.
Yeah.
So literally the Chiefs, Chargers, and Raiders?
Nope, it's the Raiders, the Broncos, and the Chargers. We have the top number of drives, and with 105, 109, and 110. Raiders have the most, 110. Broncos have 109. Raiders have 21 3-and-outs, and the Broncos have 31.
Holy crap!
That's bad.
28%.
The Chiefs
drives
aren't up there because we go up by 7 points and then slow the game down as slow as possible.
Yeah, you guys are.
Yeah, we're
probably
we're high in drives because we're air it out and bombs away.
Yeah, you're like middle of the pack. The Chiefs have 92 total. But yeah, 28% of our drives this season have been 3-and-outs.
Will we see Paxton Lynch again this season?
Please God, no.
Starting to wonder.
He's terrible, but
hey, you can't say he has not had enough exposure to even really know where he's at.
That Atlanta defense is so great right now, right?
Really, he doesn't know the system.
I can name 2 of their players. So.
Well, I don't think he knows the system well enough yet, because the last time we put him out there, he was playing in shotgun, which is what he was used to in collage. I don't think
quarterback is a cerebral position. He's been with the team the entire offseason. What's slowing him down, honestly?
Listen, it's the same thing probably that Jared Goff is having in Los Angeles. I mean, he played in a shotgun system in Cal.
You're coming from gimmicky college systems to an actual offense.
To a pro offense, yeah.
It takes time to learn.
Not everyone can be Dak Prescott.
Right. I mean, even Jared Goff can't even get starts over there in Los Angeles because he played in the Bear Raid system. It's just Sonny Dykes at Cal just throwing bombs and hoping that some receiver catches it and scores a touchdown with it. So that's part of why he can't even see the field in Los Angeles. And that's probably the same reason why Paxton Lynch can't see the field in Denver, because that's what he did in Memphis.
I don't think that's a good way to start your career, though.
No, it is not. It's terrible. But I mean,
I have to look into how successful those type of QBs are in the NFL, honestly.
So do we pull up the Andre Ware in David Klingler references for Houston? We pull up those stats from the old 90s? Yeah.
I think we go with the David Carr.
You can just look at Brock Osweiler as a good example.
Exactly. He had how long to learn behind freaking Peyton Manning?
Forever.
Well, we'll just look at Case Keenum, the all-time NCAA leader in yards and touchdowns, I think.
Are you joking?
Yeah.
That's not real, is it?
No, it's real.
No, that's all real. That's 100%
That's
real.
amazing. Case Keenum's going to go into the College Football Hall of Fame and he can barely hold a job in the NFL. That's amazing.
Look at Tim Tebow.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right, back on track, guys. Back on track. Speaking of tracks, the reason we won this game, and the reason it was so dominating, is because the Raiders did what they were supposed to do. They won the time of possession game by riding the Tay train. They rode Murray and Richard into the ground to the tune of 218 yards, averaging 5.8 yards per rush. They only lost yards on one rush, totaling 3 yards, and Murray was able to notch 3 touchdowns punching it in from the goal line. Now, the reason they were able to win both sides of the running game is they dominated the line of scrimmage all game. Everybody knows this is one of the best offensive lines in football, but the Broncos' defensive line isn't full of slouches either, but that did not matter. They punched it right at the Denver defense and brought in help with Denver Kirkland as an eligible receiver. Donald Penn even said after the game they ran the same 2 run plays the second half, daring the Broncos to stop them, and they couldn't. And he stated, and I quote, "That's how you take their will."
Who is
your
left guard? He's
Kelechi Osemele. Yeah,
Osemele.
I mean,
he was.
How do you not know his name after calling or freaking Colin Collinsworth or whatever his
I
freaking
blocked
name is.
out that entire game. I'll just say that right off the bat.
All he did was like get on his knees for Osemele like the entire game.
He had a
But
great
no,
game. Osemele
Honestly,
was
did you
amazing.
guys watch Donald Penn? Like the way he handled Ware's spin move was brilliant, and he took both Ware and Miller at times. And honestly, he didn't even allow pressure all game when Carr dropped back. It was brilliant. So that's all I really have to say about the positives. The only mistakes I have for this game are the two big plays allowed. First, we were on a roll up 13-0 in the first half, and some miscommunication on the defensive backfield leads to Carl Joseph having to trail Jordan Norwood for the touchdown, which was a total busted play that was terrible for the defense. And it honestly could have taken them out of the game. It was early in the game, and it never happened again, so I'll excuse that one. But even worse, when the game is put away with 5 minutes left and the Broncos are basically headed home, Simeon throws a screen to Capri Bibbs. I know who, because they know the Raiders' pass rush is selling out for the quarterback. Now none of the D-line notices the blocking change and falls back, but I mean that's fine. You still have linebackers and corners and safeties, but none of the linebackers could break their blocks. And then all of the DBs missed the tackle and their angles, and next thing you know, Bibbs is like diving in the end zone. And it's a 10-point game again. Like, these big plays left the Broncos in what was otherwise not a close game at all. And good teams cannot let that happen. So while there was improvement,
local guy. I just thought I'd mention.
Yeah,
he was from CSU.
Yeah, he had his Jalen Richard moment. So while hopefully the bye increases their improvement of preventing big plays, hopefully it never happens again. Because honestly, I could see that game going the other way if the offense isn't able to kind of run some clock after that.
Well,
but that's all I have.
Well, you guys only won by 10 points after all of that. Let me just say.
Hey.
10 points.
Better to be lucky than good?
Sure.
I mean, if I'm going to throw a stat out real fast, so there's a Pythagorean win total already out for the midway point of the season. The Raiders have the highest difference in terms of how much they should have won according to that number and how much they actually have.
Yeah.
They should have 5 wins right now, and they have 7.
Possession-wise,
it's called being an overachiever.
you guys had the ball for 41 minutes. We had it for 18, so less than half of what you guys had. And we scored
literally
10 points
20
less?
points.
20. You scored 30. If we divide that by the amount of time, we were being more efficient with our time.
Your 14 points were literally off of the defense being retarded for moments, and it's sad. It's really sad.
That's how football.
This is a really good defense, except for those 2 moments in a game. Every game, they're great, and then they just have a moment where somebody unplugs the controller in Madden, and then they're left just standing there not doing anything, and you're looking at the other team just kind of walk into the end zone. And you're like, what the hell just happened?
You know what those are? Those are film study moments for January 1st when that comes back around again.
Dang.
Oh, it's gonna be a good one.
That's right.
We still are undefeated on the road. Don't forget that.
All right. Let's go ahead and preview Week 10 because I don't know. Let's do it. So first game, Chiefs at Panthers Sunday early game. It's going to be a good litmus test for the Chiefs. We've played 3 pretty bad teams the last 3 weeks. Carolina is in the same spot we were in last season, 1-5 going into their bye. Basically have to win out to have any sort of chance of making the playoffs. We ended up doing it last year. They have a talented team and are one of the streakier teams in the NFL over the last few years. So, we got to going against a talented team on the road, and their backs are against the wall. So this is really going to show us what this team is made